workflow. Last time was scripted pipeline project, right? So you see the format of writing scripted pipeline. It starts with a node, right? A node. So this node, I'll teach you something else. So the question is, why do you have it as a node? All right. So this node denotes a master-slave architecture, whereby you can have more than one servers, right? And you can have Jenkins running in the master server, and you have executors. Those other nodes could be executors, right? So if you have multiple, if you have a whole lot of load, you don't put all the loads on one server. So you can have other servers run Jenkins server can be as the master, and it controls other executors, which are other servers, right? So having a node here, you can actually ask it to write to execute on maybe node 2, right? You call it node 2 or node 3, or node, depends on the number of nodes that you put in there, right? Or you can have this run on the master node, right? Right. But right now we are having Jenkins do all the execution on the master. So I'm not denoting anything there. So this is the general format of writing a scripted pipeline, right? So the format for writing a declarative pipeline is different. And this is what the format looks like. You start with a pipeline, then agent, right? In this case, agent is any, right? Why do we have it as an agent? Because the agent, for you to be able to, for Jenkins to be able to access other servers, you need a protocol, right? You need something like an agent. It's not agentless. It has to connect. And the agents that it connects to is always Java. The only thing that you need to install in the other servers, if you have 3 other servers as executors, is Java, right? I'll probably take time to describe that to you, but just know about the format. So you have pipeline, right? Then you have agents, any, then you have stages, right? Note that you have stages here. In the scripted pipeline, let's go back to the scripted pipeline so we can look at comparison. So in scripted pipeline, you start with stage, right? You have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and so forth. In declarative pipeline, you have stages. You start with stages. And this comma, this open bracket and close bracket, then you can put the stages that you have. So you have stage, right? You have stage. The first stage could be build. You have second stage could be test. The third stage could be deploy, and so on and so forth. Now, under the stages, then you can have steps, right? So this could take more than one step. You can have step 1, step 2, step 3 under build, right? You can also have steps, different steps in test, step 1 and so on and so forth, right? So it takes about 3 layers. First layer is stages. Then you have the stage. Then you have the steps, right? So you can have some process run in parallel, right? So while this one is running, the other one is also running. So I think I had a diagram that I showed you guys last time. This is the diagram, right? This is, right, with the declarative pipeline, you're able to do this. You can have all these test processes, right? For example, you want to do a penetration test. You want to do a smoke test. You want to do an end-to-end test, right? You can run all that as a parallel test on that test. So this is the stage. You can have this step 1, step 2, step 3, and they run in parallel, right? You can also do a build, a model 1, build of model 2. You can run this in parallel as well, right? So that's what this is, the steps, okay? So what I'm going to do, let's switch back to my editor. What is it called? Yeah, this is my editor right here. So I can create a new, right? Let's create one and see how we can actually write this and run this program, this script. We start with a scripted pipeline is to target a pipeline, call it a pipeline. Then you have an open bracket. The open bracket will open and close, right? It will open and close, so everything will go under the pipeline, okay? So the next thing that you might want to do, 2-tab, agents any, right? With that, you can declare the tool. So what tool are you using to do the build, right? So remember the last time, okay, now under that tool, we have to open, something has to go under here, okay? So how did we identify the tool that we're using in scripted pipeline? Remember in scripted pipeline, let me bring this up again so you can see the difference between this and that. So in the scripted pipeline, we defined the tool. we call the tool Maven home, then we define the tool, right? And the tool is Maven, it was Maven 3.9.6. That's what we use, right? So we define the tool. And again, I showed you where this came from, right? So you should know where this came from. So let's go back. We can take a look. Let's go to Jenkins so you can know exactly. Let me repeat that again. You go to your dashboard, go to Manage Jenkins. Under Manage Jenkins, you can get to your tools, right? Under your tools, this is where we declare the tools that we are using. Under Maven, right? Under Maven, we describe the tool. This is the version of the Maven that we're using, 3.9.6. That is a build tool, right? So this is where we describe it, okay? Right. So this in the same vein, so we can also name the tool, this tool that we have here. In this case, we call it Maven 3.9.6. So what tool are you using? You're using Maven, right? So you can write it here, Maven. And you put the version of Maven. You put it in code. Maven 3.9.6. Again, you can just call it whatever name you want to call it when you're declaring the tool, when you set it up. It doesn't need to be the version name. I name it this way so I know the version that I'm using. So next time if I want to use the same script, I can always change it to the version. I can go back to my tool and change the version, knowing the version that if I'm upgrading the version, if I'm using a new version. So that's the reason I explicitly stated 3.9.6. You can call it my tool. You can call it IT tool. You can call it debit tool. It does not matter. As long as you declare it, it's going to go find that tool and use the tool, okay? So once you're done with this, you see this bracket has closed this bracket, okay? So the next thing that you want to do is now stages, right? So you want to put all this in stages. That's how you want to write your program. So you open another bracket, and this bracket will contain all the stages, okay? So if you have that as stages, you can do stage, right? Stage. You can say stage 1, you want to clone your Git. So you have to put this in bracket like this, in quote like this. And with this, you open another bracket because this has to go under a bracket. So you see all this is contained in bracket. If you miss any of this bracket, your program is not going to work, okay? So that's why you see I created the first bracket and open it up so that I have it here. So when every other bracket that I'm creating goes inside and it encompasses the command. So this, you can call this the command or the statement that you put inside, okay? So the first thing I want to do a git clone, okay? You can also use the same build script or the syntax that we use, right? So if you go back here, you want to create a new project. Call this my declarative project, right? So that's the name I'm giving it. And this is a pipeline project, right? Click OK, right? Now, I can go here. This is my script. This is where I'm going to put all the scripts. I can come back here, just like we did in the scripted pipeline. The same thing. So the first thing I want to do, I want to git clone my Git, okay? So you can come here and look for Git. This is Git, right? If I get to Git, so what I need here is the URL of the Git. So this is my Git server, right? And the repository that I'm trying to clone is this repository, okay? So you can go to your repositories. This is your repositories. All the repositories are in here. So you can have all this. These are repositories, but this is where my code is. So I want to clone this repository, right? So I can open up that repository, right? I can copy this URL. This is called the URL. All this is the URL, right? I can copy it here, or I can just click on this code, and the URL is here. I can just click. If I click here, it will copy it, right? So I take this copied URL, come back to my Jenkins, right? This is the scripted pipeline, and I can paste it in here, right? And remember, I'm running this. This is from my master branch, right? I'll take time to talk to you about branch strategies, right? How you create your branching strategies. It always comes in the interview, right? Branching strategies has to do with your Git, right? And it has to do with how you set up your environment, right? We'll get into that. So let me not confuse you with this ones. So this is my master branch. So I'm cloning this from my master branch. If you go back to my program, you see that this is the master branch. So this master branch has to match this master branch, right? If my repository was a private repository, I would use a username and password, and that username and password will be my username, this is my username, iturupe, and the password of my Git. I would use that. And have access. That would give me access here. So I would have to create that right here. So for example, I don't have it here, right? So I would create it and select one of these. So that would be my credential, right? But now I'm using a public repository, so I don't need a credential. So once I do that, I can generate the pipeline script. And this is the script right here. You don't have to know how to write it. Just copy your URL, paste it in here, and click generate pipeline. And it creates the pipeline for you, the script for you, okay? So if you've done that, you can go back to, I am just writing this in the editor so we can know it, but this comes in here, right? What I'm showing you right now comes right here, but I'm using this editor, right? So we can all see what it looks like. So I can paste this in here. So you see how I have the Git clone. Now I've done with my Git clone, stage 1. This is how you write the script for Git clone, right? So from there, I have to go to the next, oh, wait a minute. This Git clone has to go under steps, right? I have to put it under a step. So, sorry, it has to go under steps. Remember, it's a 3-prong approach. So it goes under, so I have to put it on another bracket. So, forgive me. So I will have 2 brackets here. Okay, so steps, it has to be under steps with an S, steps, right? So it has to be under these steps. And you see this bracket closes this bracket, and this bracket closes this bracket, okay? So the next thing is the next stage. So next stage, I can put, so we can, okay. The next stage, what do I want to do? I want to do a build, right? So 2 is to create a build, right? We call it build, which is, what do I use for my build? I'm using Maven, right? And I've declared what my Maven is. So I have to run an sh command to be able to run that build, okay? So I have to put this again in a step. So want to call it steps, right? Under steps, I open another bracket. Okay, before I do that, I have to open a bracket for the stage. I'm sorry. I have to open a bracket. So this is the bracket, and under this, I have to put steps and put another bracket here. So under this bracket, I have to put my code, right? So what's the code? Well, how am I going to run this? How do you run a build, right? We talked about it last time, is MVN package, or you can do MVN clean package, right? So I can just simply do sh, then MVN package. That will do my build, right? I'm done with that step. That's all I need to put in there, right? So I go, this will do my build, complete build, right? Then I can go back, right? I create another stage, right? What's the next stage? I want to do a test for SonarQube, right? So let's call it test. Test coverage, right? With SonarQube. So I open another bracket, and this is under the bracket. Under the bracket, I need another steps. So I put steps, right? And open and close another bracket, right? Inside these steps, I want to run my SonarQube. And what command do I use to run SonarQube, right? MVN sonar. I'm done with that. It's complete, right? The next stage I need is to upload the artifact, right? So I can just say upload artifact. So that's stage 4, and say upload artifact. Okay, I open and close another bracket. Inside the bracket, I have steps, right? I open and close the steps as well. Okay, inside the steps, what's the command to upload the artifact? The command is sh mvn deploy. Okay, so I'm done with that stage. That's simple. So I go to the next stage. What's the next stage? I want an approval, right? I want to create an approval, and I want a timeout and some kind of message, right, to show that is an approval, because I'm doing continuous delivery, right? If I'm doing continuous deployment, I would not need any intervention, but I'm doing what is called continuous delivery. So here I can do 5 approval, right? Open and close the bracket again, right? Do my steps, open and close the bracket again. Inside the steps, right? I want to call a timeout. Now you can go, how do I do a timeout? I don't know, right? So what's going to help me? I can go to my pipeline syntax, right? In my pipeline syntax, I need a timeout. How do I write a script for timeout? So this will help me out. Go to st timeout. This is timeout enforced time limit, right? So I can create this. How many hours or how many minutes do I need? For example, I need to hold it for 24 hours. If I put 24 hours here, right, and I need it in hours, okay, this will generate the script for me. This is the script that I want. So I can actually copy this, right, get back to my editor, and this is where I put the script. Just copy and paste it. And here, I can put a note. I can put a note here. I can say input or input message. Or I can just put a message, please approve the, no, wait a minute. Before I do an approval, now the artifact is not deployed. I need to deploy the artifact, right? When I deploy the artifact, I want someone to go and look at the functionalities, right, and make sure they are running well. So look at the workflow. The workflow is, this is an artifact. Artifact is in Nexus, so there's no way I am even viewing the application because it's still an artifact. So my stage number 5 should not be approval. Stage number 5 should be deployment, right? Deploying to Tomcat, right? So stage 5, you have to look at your workflow, make sure your workflow is what it should be, right? This is the deployment, so I can call it deploy to stage, right? I can deploy this to stage. You can say deploy to stage. I can put a little thing here. That's my staging environment for QA, right? To do a test, okay? Then I can open a bracket here. Inside the bracket, I have steps again, right? And open another bracket in steps. Now I can do the deployment, right? Now, what is the script for deployment? I don't know how to write a script for deployment. So what do I do, right? I can go and use the my little script, right? So I can go back. Let me go back here and go back to my configuration. Right? I have my little script here, or I can, this is a script actually. So I can look for deploy to container. So deploy WAR or EA file to a container. This is a web application file, and this is an enterprise application file. So deploy to a container. All right. So with this, it's asking me, so WAR or EA file. So what's the WAR or EA file? I need it in the target directory, and I want anything that ends with .war, or I can put .war here. So I put a wildcard. This is called a wildcard. To tell anything that ends with WAR, that's what I need to deploy. I leave the context part open, and I need to select the container, right? What is the container that I'm using for the deployment? I'm using Tomcat for deployment, right? So I select the Tomcat version. This is, you can also use Glassfish, JBoss. So we're using Tomcat. We're not using JBoss or Glassfish. Tomcat 9 specifically is what we're using. So I select that. Now it's going to ask me for the credentials for Tomcat, because you don't have access. Tomcat will not give you access if you don't give it a credential, which is your username and password. So my credentials, I had already created it. This is my credential for Tomcat, right? So I select that, right? If you don't know how to create, you can click here and enter click Jenkins. You click add, click Jenkins, and enter the username and password, okay? And then select it here, okay? Now, after that, it's asking me for the URL for Tomcat, right? So I have to go to my Tomcat. Now I have my Tomcat running already, okay? So I have Tomcat here running already. So I can come to Tomcat and copy the URL right here. So copy all this to the port that you have here. Copy it here, then come back to the snippet and paste it here. Okay. Once you paste that, click on generate pipeline, and this create the script for you. Now I did not create this. This software does all this for me. Okay. All you need to do is the steps. If you know how to create the steps, then you can generate the scripts, right, without writing any code, right? And these steps are everywhere. I mean, if you go to Jenkins documentation, you see the steps here. So you don't have to memorize how to write these steps. It's there on the internet. If you type in Jenkins declarative pipeline, all you need to do is to fill in what you need to fill in. Of course, you know what MVN Sana is when you're trying to do your SanaKeep, MVN package when you want to build, MVN deploy, you know all those. Every other script, the deploy script, you go to the script and the script will generate it for you. So I can paste it here. The script is written. I did not write this. This generated it for me. So I don't need to cram how to write this script, right? All I need is how to create this format. And you can copy it from anywhere. You don't need to memorize it. But you need to know exactly, because if you copy it and it's not right, you have to troubleshoot it, right? So that's why I'm taking time to show you step by step so you understand, okay? And okay, now the deployment, look at the workflow. The workflow now is being deployed. From the artifacts is deployed now to my Tomcat server. Now from Tomcat server, the supervisor or approval engineers would go ahead and check out the application and make sure the functionalities are running well, right? Once they are running well, then they can approve it, right? So please approve the application, right? Yeah, you can just put a small input statement like that, right? So after that, okay, once you do this, once you complete this, so let's make sure we have this. This goes here, and this goes here. All right, so once you complete that, you can put the stage here. Now the next stage is, so we call this stage 5, this will be stage 6, right? So our stage 7 will be deployed to production. So it's the same command here that I would deploy to production. So I can just copy this and paste here, right? Because it's the same command, right? The only thing different is the stage number, okay? So once I'm done with that, my deployment is complete, right? I may want to send an email once it's complete, so you can do a stage 8 and put, right, an email. So once you're done with this, you can copy the whole of this, right? You can copy the whole of this. Let's copy this and paste. Copy this and paste it. Go back to my Jenkins configuration. This is a configuration. The name of our pipeline. Yeah, this is the pipeline that we're running. So you can paste it right here. Okay. Now, once you paste it here, you can check if there's any error. If there's an error, it will tell us where the error is. So if you click apply, right, it will give you a little tag here. See, for example, we have an error here, right? An error here. Who can tell me what the problem is here? Who can tell me what problem we have here? There's a syntax error here.
It needs an end quote.
Yeah, we have an end quote. That's right. So we hit apply again and see we have the same problem here too, right? You hit apply again. We have the same problem here again. Hit apply again, right? We still have a problem. So there's a bracket that shouldn't be here, that is here. Okay, let's take a look. Right. This approval, I think we messed up from this approval. This approval, this one, where does it end? So it would end here. So this one would be this. Okay. So after that, this one would complete this. So we have more. We have a step here, and this step will cover this step. Then we have stages. This step will cover, I think we have one. We need one more.
I think when you have the approval, it's like I'm seeing three brackets open and only 2 closing.
Okay, I think that might be the problem. So let me take this out on the approval. So the approval, this is the open one. This is an open one. This is an open one. Okay, that's true. Yep, you got it. Then I open off. So let's apply again. All right, see, now all the errors are gone. Right, so that's how you troubleshoot, because you run into this problem that you have syntax errors, right? This is a troubleshooting. We just completed troubleshooting right now. So let's see if you save this now. Let's see if this is going to run. Okay. Now you can run your application. Just click build. It's not running. It's running into a problem. It failed, right? So this is what I was telling you about. Now there's a problem. It started by, I'm the one that started this. Growth multi-compilation error. So it did not even compile. Workflow 50. So you see, it gives you indication what's going on. There's a bracket here that's missing, right? So line 50, column 5. So you can actually go to line 50 and see what the problem is, okay? So you can go back to open the pipeline. Is this the pipeline that we're running? No, this is the other one, the one that I ran previously. This is the one, okay? So go back to your configure. In your configure, go down to, all right, go to line 50. So line 50 says there's a problem. Maybe we're missing, you're probably missing, let's go apply again. See, it's giving us that error. So let me put one, just in case. Let me see what this is. And it's gone. So we had one here. This is supposed to close one here. So we messed up while we were doing this approval thing. So that's probably what messed up, right? So let's apply again. It's good. So we can save it. Let's try to run it again and see. Okay, it's still not running. Okay, this time let's see what the problem is. Has a syntax error. Workflow script 3, undefined tool. So a tool, it says a tool is not defined, right? So a tool is not defined. It's given workflow 39, expected a symbol at line 39. So this is the first problem that we're having. This is the second problem that we're having, okay? So this is really good so we can know how to resolve this problem. So let's look at line 3. Let's go to line 3 now and see what the problem could be. Go to here, get back to configure, right? You go to line 3. So it's telling us that a tool, so it's not recognizing a tool. So it's called tools, not tool. You have to have the right syntax. It's tools, not tool, okay? So apply it again. Save this time around. Let's try it again and see. Okay. It's not running. It's still, okay, we had 2 errors. We did not fix the second error. 39 expected a symbol. Please approve. Okay, so this is not supposed to be. It should be input message before that. But let's go ahead and comment this one out. This is not really important. This is not really important. So we can just comment this one out. We have the messages. What is the message? On our approval, you can comment this out. You have to put some statement in there. So let's comment this out for now and make sure this is running. So try it again. Build now. Is it gonna build? Okay, we started. Okay, it's building. Okay. We have it, right? It's cloned. It's doing the build now. It's doing the testing. Okay. Let's see, it's gonna go through SonarQube. Okay. So you can also, real time, you can look at the codes, what the codes are doing, right? I think we've gone through Nexus, it's done the deployment, right? It's finished, right? So we put a timeout, and the timeout did not actually work. Timeout set to expire in 1 day, 0 hours. But the timeout did not work. But it going ahead and deployed the application. Let's take a look at the, right? The application is deployed. Right, the timeout that I put in here, for some reason, it did not take it, it did not recognize it. But the pipeline is, I got to stage, right? We put, okay, we did not change this to production. So you can go back to configuration, right? This is just the quality check. So this goes to production. So you can do this to prod, right? After this, after the timeout, so it would probably time out here. I don't know why it's not taking the timeout there, like we did in the scripted pipeline. So let's run this again and make sure the syntax is right. Did we change it to, did we leave it at nanoseconds? We have to check what we had in here, because I think it went through nanoseconds. This is 167 milliseconds, right? So it has to wait for, if we had put in 24 hours, convert 24 to seconds. So probably you waited for milliseconds, then approve itself because nobody approved it. So we go back to our syntax. Let's go back to our configuration and see what we enter for the approval time. Oh, it's 24 hours. For some reason, it took it to milliseconds and approve itself without waiting for approval. Usually it waits for approval and then we approve it, then it goes to deployment. Well, so that is the declarative pipeline, okay, which is different from the real pipeline. So the build now is not automated. So when I run this build now, let me go back here. If you look at this build, I am the one that started this build, right? You can also make this build start automatically. Once you commit something, it starts automatically, right? So for example, let me see. Let me go back here real quick. Go back to this is my declarative pipeline. Go to my configuration, right? In my configuration, okay, let me discuss some of this with you. Some of them we'll do it tomorrow, okay? For example, when I was running this build, go back to my dashboard, it's skipping, if I go back here, it's skipping how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's skipping 4 now, but I don't need it to keep 4 bills, right? I want it to keep maybe 2 bills. I can only keep it for 2 days, so I can only keep it for 10 days or 50 days, whatever days that you want to keep it. You can make that happen, right? Go back to your configure, right? Under your configuration, you can say discard all bills. And by the way, you can put a little description here. Say, this example of declarative pipeline. Right? This is just to describe what the pipeline that. So anyone that picks up your pipeline will know exactly what the pipeline does. You put a huge description here to describe your project. So if you leave the company and someone else comes back to use your project, right, it knows exactly what it's doing, right? So that's where you write the description. So you can discard all bills. I can days to keep the bill. I can keep this bill for maybe 2 days, right? Maximum number of bills that I need only 2, right? So anytime I run, I need only 2 of them to stay, right? So now I can come back here, save this project again. If I run this, it's going to keep only the first one and the second one, right? By the time it gets to the end, all this will be gone because I don't need it to keep all this because it's occupying my memory capacity, right? So I only need to keep 2 bills. So if I run it by the end of the day, it would only keep 2 days and we'll keep it 2 bills and we'll keep it for 2 days, just like I stated. So there's a way to speed up. I can't remember how to speed up. There's a way you can speed up your, what happened here? It's still giving me 4 bills. So let me refresh this. Right, it will refresh it, see it's only keeping these 2 bills. Okay? Right, so let me run another one. Yeah, there's a way you can speed up. I forgot exactly how to speed it up. There's a way you can speed up your process, and this will go a little bit faster. I hope I will remember it. I'll show you guys how to do it as well. Okay. So it's going to discard the 3rd bill, so we'll keep only these 2 bills by the end of the day. Okay. All right. So if I refresh this now, it should have only 2 bills. Okay. So that's discarding all bills. The other configuration that you can do as well. Let's go back there. Go back to my configuration. In my configuration, the one I wanted to show you is build periodically, right? We'll get into webhook and how to use port SCM tomorrow. But if I want this build to build periodically, for example, every second, I want to build. And how is this build going to happen? If I do, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every second, every hour, every day, every year. So this stands for year, this stands for month, this stands for days, this stands for hours, this stands for second, right? So this would every second, right, is going to create is going to start automatically. Okay, let's take a look at it and see if this build is going to run by itself. Okay. Oh, you already started. So every second, we already had 2 more. So this, I did not do anything. So every second is going to run automatically. So you want your build to run automatically, every 2 hours or every 3 hours or so, you can do that. The formula, you can go to a website, right? Let's do a Google. Go to Google and you can do cron job generator. You click cron job generator, you have a lot here that you can choose from. So let's take this one, crontab.guru, right? Let's look at this one. So if we look at this one, so this is 5, this is minute, this hours, these days, this months, this is day, right? So if I need this to run, every minute, right? Every minute, I'm going to do star, 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 right? That's what I did. All these stars would run. So if I look at, okay, let me see. If I put a star here, that's what I did, put a star here. Right. I can get this to run, right, every minute, right? Every minute it would create, right? Like our project is running right now, right? So if I wanted to run every 5 minutes, right, at every 5 minutes, right? So if I put, for example, at 2:05, right, at 2:05 is going to run. So if I put one here at 0:05 on day of month, so every month, right, is going to run. Is going to run this, right? If I put, let me put, right. So it's going to run at 0:02 on day of month one in January, right? So let me put like 4 here. So at 0:02:05 on day of month 1 and on Thursday in January, right? So this, you can play around with the numbers depending on when exactly that you need this to run. So if I put a star here, come back here, put a star here, put a star here, put a star here. So if at 2 o'clock, right, 2 o'clock, it will give you exactly when this is going to run, right? January 27. So mean tomorrow, right, 0:02:05 is going to run this job. So in this case, you can just copy, if this is what you want, right, you can copy this cron time, come to, right, see this is running every minute, right? Come back to your configuration. Come back to your configuration, right? In your configuration, we have build periodically. You can change this to this, right? Once it's changed, you save it, right? So now it's going to change. Now the build, after running this, is going to run again the following day, right? It's going to run again the following day and keep running if you leave your server running, okay? So that's how you configure. Now you see automation now. I did not run it. It's running by itself, right? It's running by itself. So